In Radnor Gardens, we met two musicians from Peru and had the idea that we should stay the night there and walk with them to Brentford in the morning. When we awoke, it was spring.
London, which is filmed and written by Patrick Keiller, it's a very unique, almost unclassifiable film. It's partly, most obviously, a travelogue where Keiller takes his camera around the capital city in the early 90s, examining all sorts of sort of oddities and historical incidents that have been kind of forgotten or covered up.
In the supermarket, we found a cafe with friendly staff and pleasant, inexpensive food, but there was no sign of anyone writing poetry. At IKEA, the restaurant also seemed promising, though it had given up selling wine and beer. But the atmosphere was disappointing, tainted by the ill humour that so often accompanies questions of interior design.
Alongside the travelogue documentary aspect of the film, there are two characters that Keiller has conjured up. There's the narrator, who is never seen or never named, but whose voiceover is spoken by Paul Schofield, the actor. And there's also a figure called Robinson, who is the sort of central figure of the piece, really.
Across the road from Robinson's flat in what used to be a video shop, a driving school has opened, run and mostly patronised by Portuguese people who have settled in the district increasingly in the past few years. Robinson has decided we should get out more. He had thought that he might learn to drive, but now he says it'll be better if we walk.
He and the narrator go on these expeditions over the capital, and they're sort of pilgrimages, they're sacramental journeys to find places of literary and historical significance that Robinson is interested in. Keiller himself is a sort of oddity of a filmmaker. He's part architectural historian, part artist, part gallery installation man, and part documentarian, and the film reflects all of these.
The masses are saved by battling for their daily bread, the commercial classes by their absorption in heaping up wealth, and all by the bustle of business. But nervous and romantic temperaments, fond of living among people, fond of intellectual sloth, and of idly luxuriating in emotion, are bored to death here and fall into despair.
Black shirt, white socks, black shoes, black hair, white strap, bled white, dyed black, sweet jeans.
Radio On by Christopher Petit, which was released in 1979, I think. Again, it's a very unusual, unclassifiable, almost unique film in British cinema. A very severely dressed disc jockey takes a road trip, drives from London to Bristol to investigate, find out more, collect the remains of his brother who has died. There's lots of David Bowie, late 70s music on the soundtrack, Heroes, Always Crash in the Same Car, lots of Kraftwerk, some of the Rumour, Lena Lovitch. That sort of Cold War Berlin chic had great currency in youth culture in the late 70s.
You're an Eddie fan, huh?
Yeah.
You crashed around here somewhere?
Yeah, he crashed on the A4, not far away.
What's that, some time ago, huh?
1960.
60?
Long time. Smashed his head.
What'd he do, come off the road?
It was a taxi, him and Gene Vincent. Come back from a gig at the Hippodrome. The taxi crashed.
Bristol Hippodrome?
Yeah.
Hit a lamppost.
Step one.
Petit has sort of become a bit of a secret hero to a lot of journalists because he basically pitched the idea to Wim Wenders while interviewing him when he was a film critic at Time Out in the mid to late 70s. Obviously Wenders liked the idea and helped get it made.
Well, it sure seems like heaven to me.
Although superficially they're very different films, they both share what I would term a sort of reverence and an interest in the environment and landscape around them. I think the missing link really between them is the work of Ian Sinclair, whose sort of popularity has come since both these films were made, but who was an early fan of London and sort of wrote a considerable amount about it at the time, and obviously is a sort of well-known collaborator with Petit in sort of subsequent films. And if you think about the way Sinclair in books like Lights Out to the Territory and The Rose Red Empire, he has a practice of inspecting the streets and trying to divine the past, the future and the present. These two films are sort of linked by that spirit, and they both, I think, do it in a slightly different way, but for me, both brilliantly.